you said that there are different kinds of systems in the body which help the organism to live on the earth for its survival. So many systems in the body will be helping us to be on the earth. That means for our survival on the earth. So in all those systems, the another important system we come across is reproductive system. Reproductive system. So this reproductive system reproductive system. So coming to this reproductive system, all other systems will help in the perpetuation of life, that means for the survival of the life, but this reproductive system will help in the perpetuation of life on the earth. That means for the continuation of the race. For the continuation of that race on the earth. So you might have observed nestlings on the trees. So what have you seen in those nests? Eggs. So birds hatching their eggs into small birds, young ones. So through this reproduction, the young ones are produced. That means the life is reproduced. The life will be reproduced by the system of this reproduction. So by talking about this reproduction, as we said, for the other systems in the body, some organs are included for each and every system in the body to perform their own functions. For example, if you take circulatory system, the circulatory system contains heart, blood vessels, capillaries. So in the same way, the reproductive system also involves some organs in the body. So we call these organs as reproductive organs. Reproductive organs. So as many of the higher organisms are divided into male and female. So sex difference will be present in the higher organisms. So in these higher organisms, the animals which have female sex organs are considered as the females, and male sex organs are considered as males. So male and female. So when we come across the reproductive organs, the male reproductive organs are the testes. The male reproductive organs are the testes, and the female reproductive organs are the ovaries. Female reproductive organs are the ovaries. So first we take the female reproductive system. In the female reproductive system, as you said, ovaries are the female reproductive organs. Along with the female reproductive organs, ovaries, some other parts are also included in the female reproductive system. So as we are talking about the female reproductive system, before going to that, we consider even the single cell organisms, the reproduction in single cell organisms, because already in the evolution theory, so it is quoted that all the higher organisms have been formed from the single cell organisms, and the origin of single cell organisms have been come from waters. And these single cell organisms, in single cell organisms, as they are kept in the phylum Protozoa, and some organisms as microorganisms in other phyla, if we come across the protozoans, the best example is amoeba. So amoeba is a single celled organism which belongs to the phylum Protozoa. So speaking the reproduction in amoeba is single celled, only one cell. Single cell means one cell organism. So there is no chance of forming any organs in the body because it is only single cell, and there is no sex difference between the organisms in amoeba. But even then, it has to perpetuate on the earth. So it has to continue its race on the earth. So it has to reproduce the young ones, or otherwise it will get perished. So it will get perished. So that's why these organisms will follow some methods to reproduce the young ones. For example, if you take amoeba, in amoeba, as it is a single cell, it has a few organelles inside. That is, in the center it has nucleus, and along with the nucleus it also contains cytoplasm, the cellular fluid. And this amoeba, along with its nucleus, in reproduction, it starts from the nucleus. So amoeba is a single cell organism, and in the center it will have nucleus, and then there is cytoplasm inside the cell. So the method that is followed by this amoeba is fission. 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 In this fission, the nucleus will get divided into two nuclei, and after that, the division in the cell fluid, that is the cytoplasm, will takes place. So here, the nucleus will get divided into two, and then a construction is formed in between the organism, and this construction will divide the animal into two, and two baby nuclei are baby nuclei first, and along with this construction, as they are separated, they are recorded as daughter amoeba. Daughter amoeba. So here, through fission, a single amoeba is divided into two daughter amoeba. Two daughter amoeba. So in this manner, that is through fission, the reproduction will occur in amoeba, and we call this as asexual reproduction. We call it as asexual reproduction. Why we are calling this as asexual reproduction? Here, there is no involvement of any reproductive organs. There are no male and no female sex organs. So it is quietly without the involvement of gametes or without the involvement of sex organs. So we call this reproduction as asexual reproduction. So as we are talking the method of asexual reproduction in all other protozoans, example Paramecium, Euglena, Verticillasta. In all these organisms, the reproduction will take place through the fission, through the method called fission. Now coming to this reproduction in plants. If you come to reproduction in plants, there we can see mainly two types of reproductions. One is vegetative and another one is sexual reproduction. Vegetative and sexual reproduction. So coming to the vegetative reproduction, some plants you might have observed that there are no flowers in those plants. So they are non-flowering plants. So the plants where there are no flowers, there is no chance of forming any fruits. Because there is no chance of forming any fruits, no seeds. So such plants have to reproduce themselves through a method called vegetative reproduction. So this vegetative reproduction is a reproduction which takes place with the parts of the plant. So what are the parts of the plant? Leaves, stems, roots. Of course flower. But here in non-flowering plants, the flowers are not present. The flower is the sexual part of the plant. The flower is the sexual part of the plant. So where the flowers are absent, there the reproduction will take place through vegetative reproduction. That means through leaves, through stems and through roots. For example, the plant called Bryophyllum. In Telugu, we call it as Ranapala. So in this plant, the reproduction will take place through leaves. When the leaves come in contact with the soil, in their notches, the new roots and leaves arise, and baby plants will arise, and they give rise to new plant. In that way, Bryophyllum reproduces through leaves. And as you know, in banana, so it will get new baby plants through their roots. The roots will give root buds, and these root buds will give rise to new baby plant. So, and another example through root propagation is Muraya. In Telugu, we call it as Karivepaku. So in that, again, the reproduction will take place through the root buds. And of course, the stems you know better well, that roses, cuttings, roses, and also some fruit plants like guava, mango. Here, the stems will give rise to new plants. So that means the propagation will take place through stems. Like that, if the reproduction will take place through the parts of the plant other than the flower, we call it as vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation. And also even asexual reproduction is present in some of the plants where there are no flowers. For example, fern plant. So fern plant you might have seen in your houses as an ornamental plant. In many houses we see this fern plant as an ornamental plant, and the leaves of these ferns will bear spores at the edges of the leaf. So at the margins we can see dark dots, which we call them as spores. sporangium, and these sporangiums we can see many spores present in it, and these spores, when they fall on the ground, the new plant will arise from these spores as an asexual reproduction. And in plants, finally, the sexual reproduction. The sexual part of the plant is a flower. The flower contains both male and female organs in it. But in few plants, there are unisexual flowers. Unisexual means some flowers will contain the male organs and some flowers will contain female organs. So unisexual flowers. For example, bitter ground. In bitter ground, in Telugu we call it as kakara. So in bitter ground you might have seen two types of flowers. So some are male, some are female. So the female will bear fruit. But the male flowers, after pollination, they'll drop off. And many of the flowers that you see commonly are bisexual flowers. Bisexual flowers means the flowers which contain both male and female sex organs. So the female sex organs in the flower are the ovary, style and stigma. Whereas the male organs are the stamen, anther. So anther contains a white powdery structure, as you might have observed in many flowers. We call that yellow powder as pollen grains. So pollen grains are the male gametes. And coming to the female reproductive organ, ovary is the female reproductive organ. It also bears ovules inside it. So these ovules we consider as the female gamete. The female gamete. As through the wind or by the action of insects or man, it happens that the pollen grain will fall on the stigma of the flower. That action is called pollination. That means the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. So it is called pollination. After the process of pollination, fertilization will occur. So these pollen grains will travel through the style and they fuses with the ovule, and as fusion occurs, we call it as fertilization. After fertilization, the ovules are changed into seeds and the ovary into fruit. And this is the process of sexual reproduction in the flower. And as we talked about the unisexual flowers, as example, bitter ground. Another example is pomegranate. In pomegranate, you might have observed two different trees. One plant of this pomegranate bearing fruits and another pomegranate plant bearing only flowers. So that plant which bears only flowers is the male, and the plant which bears fruits is the female one. So like that, there are different types of sexual reproductions, and also the flowers, the reproduction, that means the reproductive organs, the presence of reproductive organs in the flowers. There are bisexual and unisexual flowers. So this is the reproduction in the plant, and these are the methods through which the reproduction takes place in plants. So coming to the human reproduction, in human reproduction, as we have already said, the ovaries are the female reproductive organs. So these female reproductive organs, ovaries, will bear ovule, and these are present in the abdominal region of the human body. In the abdominal region of the human body, on either side of the backbone, in the abdominal cavity. And in between these two ovaries, the uterus is present. And at the top, the uterus is continued as two tubes called fallopian tubes, and at the end of the fallopian tubes, they will have finger-shaped structures called fimbriae. And at the bottom of the uterus, there is vagina. So, these ovaries contain ovules, and at the time of maturity, every time only from one ovary, one ovule will get matured, and then the follicle will get ruptured and it will be released into the body cavity. The released ovum, by the fimbriae action, it is drawn into the fallopian tubes. And if it is happened that the sperms are in the uterus, these sperms will swim into the fallopian tube and reaches the ovum that is taken into the fallopian tube through fimbriae, and the fusion of these sperm and the ovum takes place in the fallopian tube. And the fertilized egg will reaches the uterus, where it gets embedded in the walls of the uterus.